This edition of Radio Stone Update is sponsored by Quantra, manufacturers of quartz surfaces made with up-to-the-minute Italian technology in yet another brand-new state-of-the-art factory. Learn more at www.quantra.in.
Hi, I'm Kay Shipper for Radio Stone Update. We like to take the end of the year to look back at where the industry has been over the past 12 months. And I say we because joining me today will be Emerson Schwarzkopf, publisher and editor of Stone Update magazine and Hard Surface Report. In both 2023 and 2024, the big story in the industry was silicosis and efforts to clean up the shop. That certainly hasn't gone away, but awareness has helped dampen the blaze. However, a California effort to regulate shops more closely didn't include everything supporters had wanted. It's definitely a story we'll keep an eye on in 2026. As important as protecting fabricators from silicosis is, in terms of press coverage, it pales in comparison with talk about tariffs. Being a key component of President Donald Trump's economic policy, tariffs have fallen on a huge range of products well outside the hard surface industry. Still, if you're buying slabs from Brazil or tile from India, it's definitely on your radar. Fortunately, Emerson Schwarzkopf is here to try to make sense of it all. Emerson?
Thanks, Kay. Tariffs ended up being a central issue in two major stories on hard surface imports in 2025. One involves new duties on a variety of products from different countries, and the other centers on what could be a large category of man-made surfaces. The first tariff concern this year came in April 2nd to be exact, when U.S. President Donald Trump announced across-the-board additional duties on nearly all imports. In a move to even out what he called as, quote, large and persistent, unquote, U.S. export trade deficits, the president declared a general 10% tariff and other country-specific rates. Those specific rates targeted several countries with strong records of hard surface shipments to the United States, including Vietnam at 46%, Thailand at 36%, China at 34%, South Africa at 30%, India at 26%, and the European Union at 20%. The Office of the U.S. Trade Representative later negotiated deals with several countries to lower those new rates, with Vietnam dropping to 20% and Thailand to 19%. Later in the year, however, two major hard surface trade partners saw tariff rates skyrocket. In August, the president added a 25% tariff on all goods from India due to that country's continuing imports of Russian petroleum products. In July, the president slapped a 40% special tariff on all goods from Brazil for a variety of reasons, including that country's social media regulation, alleged unfair trade practices, and the prosecution of former Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro over an abortive coup. U.S.-Brazil negotiations later exempted products including quartzite, although other natural stones remain under the high duty rates. And, by the way, Bolsonaro was found guilty before the relaxation of some of those tariffs. At the end of June, the total calculated duties on U.S. hard surface imports totaled $167.8 million, or roughly double the amount collected by the same time last year. And that half-year increase came after only 10 weeks of collecting the new tariffs this spring. The future of those tariffs continuing in 2026 may be in serious doubt, however. The president used the Federal International Emergency Economic Powers Act, or IEEPA, to impose the new tariffs. Several federal court decisions found the president exceeded his authority, and arguments before the U.S. Supreme Court last month seemed to indicate President Trump will lose his appeal. Look for a final decision early next year. Now, that's something being watched closely by foreign courts and other mineral surface producers supplying the U.S. market. Without the new tariffs, those hard surfaces would continue to move through U.S. ports of entry duty-free, except for imports under special unfair trade duties from China, India, and Turkey, and we'll talk about that in a minute. A separate concern for those foreign producers, however, is another U.S. government action that could impose high tariffs or a quota system for shipments, or both. In September, 3 U.S. surface manufacturers, Cambria, Deltile, and Godona USA, filed a Section 201 petition with the U.S. International Trade Commission, or USITC. It's also commonly known as a safeguard action designed to protect U.S.-based industries threatened by foreign competition. A safeguard action is much like an unfair trade complaint against a country for subsidizing exports and promoting sales with below-market values in the United States. Since 2019, the USITC found, quote, material harm, quote, from Quartz-Surface imports from China, India, and Turkey, and set varying levels of special tariffs based on the amount of damage to U.S. producers. With a safeguard action, however, the USITC only proposes a remedy, such as a tariff or a quota, if it determines there's a harm to domestic producers. The issue then goes to the U.S. President, who then can use the USITC recommendations or craft a different solution. The U.S. Quartz-Surface producers, in its petition, asked for a combination of a 50% tariff on all imported man-made silica-based surfaces, along with a country-by-country quota system to limit foreign shipments. It also offered a broad definition of minerals that would fall under the action. Since September, Hyundai LNC USA joined the petitioning companies, and a few other companies indicated support for the action. One original petitioner, Architectural Surfaces Group, later opted to drop out of the action. The petition met with opposition from one U.S. surface producer and statements sent to the USITC from more than 700 fabricators. Also among 42 interested parties in the action are other U.S. and foreign companies and representatives from the governments of Canada, India, Indonesia, Malaysia, Mexico, Spain, the United Kingdom, and Vietnam. The USITC will hold a hearing February 24th on the petition, and the Commission staff will issue a report recommending possible actions on March 18th. The USITC will vote April 1st on whether foreign imports are a serious injury to U.S. producers. And if the answer is yes, another hearing on possible remedy actions would be on April 14th. The USITC would then send its recommendations to the President by May 1st. The President, however, can use either the USITC recommendations or construct any combination of tariffs, quotas, and marketing agreements. Safeguard actions can remain in force for up to 4 years, with the ability to extend them for an additional 4 years.
This edition of Radio Stone Update is sponsored by Quantra, manufacturers of the world's toughest, most beautiful quartz surfaces made with up-to-the-minute Italian technology in yet another brand new state-of-the-art factory. Quantra's quartz surfaces come in over 80 stunning designs in 3 sizes with every customization possible. Choice of thickness, cut-edge profiles, polished, super-honed, brushed and other finishes, from slabs to cut-to-size countertops and all the way to prefabs. You name it, Quantra does it. And now, Quantra launches the world's first range of seamless, one-piece molded quartz sinks and basins, made with Quantra's own exclusive proprietary technology, unique in all the world. Speed, quality, commitment, that's Quantra. To know more about the world of Quantra, come visit www.quantra.in.
Silicosis made news as 2025 began, with a lot of that activity coming from California. With the start of a new legislative session, Golden State lawmakers opted to take another swing at toughening state laws regarding stone fabrication that could lead to silicosis. Senate Bill 20, the Silicosis Training, Outreach, and Prevention, or STOP Act, was introduced by Senator Carolyn Menovar, whose San Fernando Valley district appeared to be the epicenter of cases in the state. As initially proposed, the act would have adopted a training program on best practices related to fabrication, developed a certification process for fabrication shops, and prohibited the distribution of natural or manufactured stone slabs for fabrication to non-certified businesses. The measure was built on recommendations from the Los Angeles and California Departments of Public Health and the state's Occupational Safety and Health Standards Board, which voted in late 2024 to make permanent emergency regulations that protect workers from respirable crystalline silica. The regulations were first approved on a temporary basis at the end of 2023. Aimed particularly at those who work with man-made stones, such as Quartz-Surfaces, the regulations highlight the need to protect workers who fabricate countertops and similar products made from materials containing more than 10% crystalline silica. As the year moved into fall, California's STOP Act moved out of the state legislature and to the desk of Governor Gavin Newsom, but without several key provisions that would have boosted both fabrication education and enforcement. In its final form, it retained the definition of fabrication problems involving crystalline silica and prohibition of materials dry cutting. However, it took out provisions for the state to develop training on safe fabrication and, by July 2027, to certify shops that followed that training. The final version of the bill also removed any requirement that natural stone and engineered stone slabs could only be supplied to certified fabrication shops. According to the State Department of Health, 447 cases of engineered stone-based silicosis have been reported, with 25 confirmed deaths. Part of the problem, according to a study presented at the Radiological Society of North America's annual conference, is that more vigilance is needed in early diagnosis of silicosis. Dr. Sundus Latif, a diagnostic radiological resident at UCLA and the study's lead author, says only an increasing awareness of the disease process can avoid delays in treatment. The study involved a large urban hospital outside Los Angeles that has seen few historic cases of the disease. A preliminary analysis of 21 workers showed all were symptomatic and commonly had atypical and advanced features of silicosis. However, only 4 of the cases were recognized initially by the primary clinicians as silicosis, and only 7 were recognized by the radiologists. The study pointed to the need for more awareness and better recognition of imaging features associated with silicosis. In an effort to make both fabricators and their employees more aware of what can be done to implement health monitoring processes related to silica exposure, the Natural Stone Institute, NSI, and the International Surface Fabricators Association, ISFA, collaborated on new medical surveillance guidance. The NSI Board of Directors worked with the Yale University School of Medicine to further study silica safety best practices, and the Industry Association developed additional resources to enhance workplace safety, including a comprehensive document on air respirator selection and use. 2 other studies will evaluate the effectiveness of silica safety best practices through employee air sampling and medical surveillance data. ISFA is collaborating in the development of these resources because of its commitment to improving industry safety and education. Meanwhile, Congress also got into the act with legislation introduced in September that would exempt manufacturers and sellers of natural and man-made stone slabs from liability lawsuits involving silicosis and other unspecified dangers. H.R. 5437, sponsored by Representative Tom McClintock, a Republican from California, would stop civil actions being filed in any federal or state court and would also dismiss any pending lawsuits if the bill becomes a federal law. Specifically, it would stop civil actions against manufacturers and sellers of stone slab products for injuries caused during fabrication, including exposure to respirable silica. A seller under the proposed legislation would include an importer, distributor, retailer, or supplier of such products. The bill is now before the House Judiciary Committee, but no hearing date has been set. Another area presenting a combination of mixed results was the performance of materials and products used by the stone fabrication industry. While stone itself looked pretty solid, pardon the pun, some other aspects, including man-made materials and equipment, could have been more robust. Last December's import figures from the federal government show U.S. imports for the hard surfaces industry reached almost $5 billion in 2024. Leading the pack were gains in Quartz-Surfaces and the other stone sector. Figures provided by our sister publication, Hard Surface Report, show last year's final tally of natural stone, Quartz-Surfaces, and porcelain at $4.98 billion in customs value. That's a 7% increase from 2023, although less than 2021 and 2022, when the final figure topped $5 billion. The biggest increase came from the other stone sector, which includes quartzite. That number grew by 19.7% from 2023. Brazil led all countries in shipments with a 41% increase from 2023. Quartz-Surfaces led all other sectors in value with $1.6 billion in imports, a 13.9% year-over-year gain. India led the way with imports of that popular material. Porcelain's increase was more modest at $1.2 billion. That's a mere 1.8% increase from 2023. Granite was the only sector to finish below 2023 shipments. It dropped by a very small 0.4% to $5.21 million in 2023. Looking at stone another way, Brazilian natural stone exports showed a hefty 12.7% increase in 2024 compared with 2023. Total revenue for the year was $1.263 billion. In December 2024, the sector sold $125.3 million, a 64.1% increase from December 2023, and the highest December sales in the country's history. Those figures were still surpassed by 2021 and 2022 revenues, which reflect strong demand due to COVID. The United States remains the primary destination for Brazilian natural stone, representing a $711.1 million in U.S. sales in 2024. Brazil has continued to roll along through 2025. Total sales from January through November equal $1.35 billion in U.S. dollars. That's almost $84 million more than the 12-month total for last year, and it comes despite the 50% tariff applied to a large segment of Brazil's natural stone output by the United States in late August. The tariff is blamed for decreases in sales of both granite and marble. Quartzite is exempt under the order, and sales of that material grew by 39%. Brazil has made up some of the late-year losses in sales to the U.S. by increasing sales to both China and Italy, and by opening a new maritime route between Rio de Janeiro and Abu Dhabi in expectation of increasing sales to the Middle East. Cosentino Group reported that it closed 2024 with revenues of $1.5 billion, down 6.7% from 2023, and an EBITDA of $259 million, off 14% from that year. Net company income reached $71 million. Company officials attributed the decline to the continuing normalization of the market following the COVID pandemic increase and uncertainty in the global economy in 2024. The company's sales continue to come mostly from international markets, with 56% coming from North America, mainly the United States and Canada. Notable for growth in 2024 were the Middle East and Asia, where sales increased more than 30%. Despite a lower cash flow, Cosentino saw a real success with its high-brick technology, which allowed the company to reach 100% of Silestone production with a content of less than 40% silica last year. The Silestone XM line also launched, featuring a greater presence of recycled raw material and between 0% and 10% silica in its composition. The third quarter report from Caesarstone showed worldwide revenue down 5.7% year-over-year from 2024, mainly due to lower volume. This year's third quarter showed the company generating $102.1 million. Company officials attributed the decline to economic difficulties in its main markets, creating lower demand, along with greater competitive pressures. In the United States, third quarter 2025 revenues were down 10.6% from the same time last year, while Canadian revenues showed an 11.7% decrease. Italian sources have revealed that at least one aspect of the stone industry wasn't good for them in 2024. Foreign sales of Italian stone processing equipment declined by 14% from 2023. The number comes from the Confindustrio Marmomachine Studies Center in Milan. A large portion of the decline came from the United States, where customers cut spending on Italian stoneworking machinery, installations, equipment, and tools. Exports of those products decreased from 1.12 billion euros in 2023 to 969.3 million euros in 2024. Topping the pullback was the United States, with 2024's equipment purchases showing a 22.2% decline from 2023, or 137.5 million euros. Approximately 75% of revenue for the stone equipment sector comes from foreign sales. Also, the Tile Council of North America, the TCNA, reports a third straight year of decline in ceramic tile consumption in the United States in 2024, with 2.7 billion square feet, showing a 5.1% decline from 2023. India remained the top foreign supplier at 394 million square feet, although its shipments were down 2.7%. Of the top 5 exporters by volume, only Italy posted an increase, growing 29% to 308 million square feet. Italy also led all countries in shipment values, although its $707 million in 2024 reflects a 2.1% drop from 2023. Total import values for ceramic tile declined by 5.6% to $2.4 billion. The TCNA reports a large disparity in per square foot import values. While Italian imports averaged $2.29 per square foot, India's shipments came in at only 62 cents per square foot. While some companies and markets struggled with numbers, one area that remained hot in 2025 was industry shows. Shows in this country reported good, solid numbers, both for attendees and exhibitors. At the same time, the number and quality of education and training programs continue to increase. And for the first time in 15 years, an independent show has a late 2027 debut planned. As always, the International Surface Event, or TICE, led off the year with its annual showcase of materials and flooring solutions held in Las Vegas January 28th through 30th. And TICE did things up proud, hosting more than 700 global brands from 25 countries. New for 2025 was the Natural Stone Specialty Program, providing tailored education and resources to stone professionals, and a tour of the quarry and processing plant of Las Vegas Rock. Discussions projected optimism that the market is slowly regaining momentum. The 2026 version of TICE is scheduled for January 27th through 29th at the Mandalay Bay Convention Center. Industry members were back in Las Vegas at the end of February when the Kitchen and Bath Industry Show, KBIS, set another record, bringing in more than 43,000 attendees. Co-located with the National Association of Home Builders International Builders Show, or IBS, the two events drew more than 124,000 people to the Las Vegas Convention Center. Officials and exhibitors involved with the show were pleased with the results. Bill Darcy, Global President and CEO of the National Kitchen and Bath Association, which owns KBIS, says he believes the show is evidence the industry is thriving. KBIS, again co-located with IBS, will hold its 2026 show in mid-February at the Orange County Convention Center in Orlando, Florida. Orlando was the spot for Coverings 2025, which drew nearly 25,000 industry professionals. Organizers were particularly pleased with the year-over-year growth of attendees who either specify or approve purchase of materials. They estimated 75% of attendees fell into those two categories. In total, Coverings included 1,000 exhibitors from 40 countries, spread over 440,000 net square feet. Jamie Rich, Coverings show director, said the show demonstrates how the global tile and stone industry continues to thrive through shared innovation, craftsmanship, and collaboration. Typifying that were hands-on learning opportunities with live demonstrations and discussions offered by the Ceramic Tile Education Foundation and the Stone Fabricators Alliance. Coverings 2026 will take place March 30th through April 3rd at the Las Vegas Convention Center. Hardscape North America saw the largest crowd in its history in October in Louisville, Kentucky. Nearly 30,000 people from all 50 states and 52 countries filled the Kentucky Exposition Center to see what's new in products, equipment, and technology at HNA and the co-located Equip Exposition. By itself, HNA saw a 10% increase in attendance from 2024. More than 225 exhibitors filled more than 61,000 square feet at the Exposition Center, while outdoors the Hardscape House and the 30-acre outdoor demonstration yard provided attendees with a chance to learn new installation techniques and test drive equipment. HNA 2026 will be October 21st through 23rd in Louisville. And the Stone Equipment and Supply Alliance, SESA, has announced it's launching a new trade show for the industry. Called Surfex, the event will debut November 3rd through 5th, 2027 in Indianapolis. It will be the stone and surface fabrication industry's first standalone trade show in more than 15 years and is aimed at fabricators of countertops and dimensional materials. Organizers say it will showcase the latest in equipment, supplies, and surface materials and have a strong educational component. We'll release more information on that show as it becomes available. Change, any change, is a double-edged sword. It can bring new ideas and new ways of doing things, and a lot of uncertainty. Still, change is inevitable, and some of the industry's top companies saw changes at the top in 2025. Late January saw the first significant announcement of a change at the helm when Pat Alexander, the chief executive officer at Coldspring for the past 24 years, announced he was stepping down from that role. Replacing him is his son-in-law, Mike O'Connor. O'Connor joined Coldspring in 2019. The company has been family-owned and operated since 1898 and currently operates 30 quarries and multiple fabrication facilities around the country. As part of the transition, Alexander is remaining with the company as chairman of the board. In late April, Cosentino reported that it was revising its corporate structure and making a generational change in the process by naming 46-year-old Pilar Cosentino as CEO. She took over the job from 73-year-old Francisco Martinez Cosentino, who continues to serve as president in a management structure separating the two positions. Pilar Cosentino has worked for the company for more than 20 years, and she has both a law degree and an MBA. Eduardo Cosentino, 42, is now the company's sole executive vice president, while continuing as CEO of Cosentino North America. And Alvaro de la Haza becomes the chief corporation officer. April also saw the appointment of Walter Celia as the new global CEO for the Neolith Group. He has more than 20 years of experience leading projects in international industrial environments. Most recently, he served as executive chairman of HMY, a Franco-Spanish company where he led a far-reaching strategic transformation, taking the company from a specialist in the food market to a global player in retail. With his presence, Celia is seen as addressing Neolith's commitment to sustaining growth in the sintered stone market, building on its 2024 growth in key markets such as the United States and Asia. And in November, Neolith announced the promotion of Michele Ballerin to the position of CEO Americas. Ballerin joined Neolith in October 2022. Before his promotion, he served the company as Chief Revenue Growth Officer, and prior to that as Executive Vice President for the West Coast of the United States and for Latin America. Finally, in every year there are a few events that deserve a little special recognition, either for good or for ill. Here are our selections. 2025 marks the 50th anniversary of MS International Incorporated. Founded by Manu and Rika Shah in the basement of their home in Fort Wayne, Indiana, the couple initially imported blocks of granite to the natural stone industry on a part-time basis. 9 years later, the couple moved the operation to Southern California and began to grow MSI full-time. Today, the Orange, California-based company operates 50 branch locations, a company-owned truck fleet, and serves most of North America. With more than 3,000 employees, family continues to be one of the most important pillars of the company, which annually wins awards for its culture. Manu Shah continues to serve as CEO Emeritus, and day-to-day operations are directed by the couple's sons, Raj and Rup, as co-CEOs. A dozen women tile installers celebrated International Women's Day on March 8th by gathering at Carpet and Tile Warehouse in Vero Beach, Florida, to take the first ever all-woman certified tile installer, or CTI, hands-on exam. When the day was over, 6 had passed the test, bringing the total number of women CTIs to 20. The groundbreaking event was organized by the National Tile Contractors Association's Women in Tile. Women are still less than 1% of all CTIs. A Dallas-based supplier of countertops and cabinets, along with its president, will pay more than $12 million to resolve a federal case involving alleged evasion of unfair trade duties with Quartz-Surfaces. Allied Stone Incorporated and its president, Jerry Lim, agreed to pay $12.4 million to resolve a 2021 civil action claiming they violated the Federal False Claims Act. The company and Lim are alleged to have knowingly evaded or conspired to evade duties on Chinese Quartz-Surface products imported between late September 2018 and early February 2023. The claims resolved by the settlement are allegations, and there has been no determination of liability. The United States alleges that Allied Stone and Lim misrepresented the Chinese Quartz-Surface products as other merchandise subject to lesser duties, such as marble or crystallized glass. And Caesarstone Limited has announced it will outsource all its Quartz-Surface production while closing its last company-owned plant. Caesarstone was one of the earliest manufacturers of quartz surfaces. The announcement came from CEO Yost Sharon in early November as part of the publicly traded company's third-quarter financial report. The closing of the Bar-Lev plant is part of the company's move to cut costs, with the goal of achieving a profitable third quarter next year. Closing the plant is estimated to cost between $4 million and $8 million, with non-cash impairment of up to $45 million through the next 12 months. This year's third quarter saw Caesarstone report $102.1 million in revenue, down 5.7% from the same time last year. Speaking personally, I would like to thank all our listeners and all our sponsors for making this a great year. For a transcript of this podcast, go to our website at www.radiostoneupdate.com. For Radio Stone Update, I'm Kay Shipper, joining Emerson Schwarzkopf in wishing you a happy holiday season, and we'll see you here again in 2026.
This edition of Radio Stone Update has been sponsored by Quantra, manufacturers of quartz surfaces made with up-to-the-minute Italian technology and yet another brand-new state-of-the-art factory. Learn more at www.quantra.in.